want to be a violent person, but in this case, I feel like that we just need to, I hate to say the word, but assassinate him.
What was your reaction this July when the assassin almost got Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania?
I was happy.
Happy that he missed or happy that it happened?
No, happy that it happened. And too bad that it wasn't in the head.
What was your reaction in July when an assassin came an inch away from ending Trump?
Disappointment that they didn't follow through. They missed.
That shot.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, it could have been wonderful.
If he'd been shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can sum it up in one word.
Drad that it happened or drad that it missed?
Drag that it missed. I won't lie.
I do not support violence in any way. I think I'm going to let you finish it, Charles.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm so shy and reserved. My thought was, if he'd had a good scope instead of a red dot, we would not be going through this. I consider that kid to be a hero. But, that was an act of a patriot as far as I'm concerned.
When will y'all admit... Oh, I almost spilled my coffee. When will y'all admit that killing somebody over the words coming out of their mouth, their religious or political views, is a form of fascism? Y'all are bitching about fascism constantly, and you cannot give us a single actual example of how the right is fascist. And y'all are killing people and celebrating it and calling us fascists. You're retarded! That was mean. I'm autistic. I can say retarded. But that was mean. Y'all aren't retarded. You're just incredibly misguided. And I apologize for being mean. I'm loud. And I was loud for the left. I was a loud Democrat. Back in 2020, I got the COVID-19 vaccination and I said that you are evil if you don't get it. And now I have a clinical medical heart condition that is an actual hindrance on my life that I did not have until after I got that vaccination. Which technically has nothing to do with what I'm saying, but forcing people, I was forced to get the vaccine. I was going to be fired from my job. I was trying to schedule appointments that I was not allowed to schedule until I got the vaccination. And forcing people to get stuff injected into their body against their consent. Oh, it's my body, my choice until it's your choice. It makes no sense to me, but I digress. I was supposed to stop swearing, so actually, I need to relax. But, it's fascism. It's a form of fascism. Y'all are forcing people to conform. You are trying to force people to believe a certain way. You are trying to force people to say certain things. And you're gonna freaking kill them if they don't conform. You're going to ostracize them, cut them out from your lives. Convince everybody else to cut them out from their lives. You are a cult. No Republican has simply cut off people that they love from their lives because of their political views. Only Democrats do that. And as a former Democrat, I did that. Stop lying. I will be so much louder. So much louder now than I was back in 2020. You don't know how loud I can get. I work at Spirit Halloween, but part-time job. I work with 4 and 5-year-olds, and they're freaking loud. They're loud. If I can get my voice above theirs, I can get my voice above yours real fast.
You know, before I get into this news, which is basically the attack on America, which you will call false flag attacks, and from a political motivated perspective, they are false flags. But from the realm of the spirit, in a higher realm, It is the kingdom of darkness fighting against the kingdom of light. It is them losing their ground and losing their hold, and them lashing out. Why do they lash out? This is why I tell people all the time, understanding spiritual warfare as it pertains to the news is extremely important, because if you don't understand these concepts, because if you don't understand warfare, then you won't understand what's going on around you. So when you see a church get shot up, a Mormon church, when you see people out to dinner like happened this last night, and someone drives by in a boat and shoots them, when you see a factory get shot up, these are arrows. These are destructions that are coming. Is what it is. But I'm going to let the apostle whose altar I'm most tied to at this point in time speak on this issue, because I think it's very important. Then we'll switch to the news.
There are places you go to and preach Christ because souls are saved. They will shoot arrows at you for a month. Even accidents will be orchestrated. They will move men to hate you. Some will shoot you as their own life assignment. You saw what happened in the world last week. Because a young man said no to abortion. He said no to immorality. He said no to terrorism using religion. He said Jesus is Lord and nothing can change it. Then somebody shot him. Because of woke culture. He said no to transgender, no to LGBTQ. They couldn't take it because it's a corrupt world. If you think Christianity is apart from suffering, you were discipled wrongly. I'm an advocate of the blessings of God. But I also know that if you cannot give up everything for Jesus, whatever you call a blessing is your idol. As a young believer, I didn't know warfare. I went to preach at an NYC orientation camp. Power of God moved. I felt challenged, felt stirred, and I confronted territorial spirits because I knew what happens in NYC camp. The spirit that make people to be defied and deflowered before they leave orientation camp, I bind it. The spirit of immorality, the spirit of rebellion. As I was driving home, one of my tires exploded. I thought I was excited and was speeding. We changed the tire. We started literally trekking. The same tire exploded. On the road, I said, Jesus, we are surrendered by your blood. Have mercy. You don't know. I laid in my room. I started interceding against, because I was in Benue. I saw that immorality was becoming the order of the day. Young ladies literally fornicated and did harlotry to buy hair. On campus, you will see them on Friday go out in droves. Cars come to pick them. When we started interceding, I laid on the floor in my room. Those periods were the days when I fasted 21 days in a month, rest for 9 days, fast 21 days. A being walked out of my wall. Naked woman, head was a man, carried an apron on the neck. I wanted to move, I was paralyzed. He sat on my chest. Nothing, I just remember they that call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. I said, Jesus save me. It dematerialized. But for 2 weeks, I was drowning in lust. In those 2 weeks, if I wasn't helped, I would have fallen into fornication. And somebody would look and say, look, we said they are fake people. All these people shouting up and down. He won't know that it's warfare that brought me down. It's called spiritual suffering. Peter said in 1 Peter 4:1, he said, they that have suffered in the flesh, they have ceased from sinning. The same way Christ suffered. You endure temptation. You endure hardship as a good soldier of Christ. It's part of your witness. We need to raise men that can endure accusation, affliction, suffering, and stand their ground. Daniels that can confess lordship even in the lion's den. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that can clap in the fire. We don't only clap in miracle services. Even in the flames, we need men who can glorify Jesus. Not those who are full of lamentations and complaints. The moment comfort is taken away. Those who are mastered to abound and to abase. He is the fairest of 10,000 to my soul.
And that's the point I want to make about what we're getting ready to go through. And it's important that we understand this as a people and as a nation. when he mentioned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you do realize that God didn't keep them from going into the fire. He was with them inside of the fire. In fact, they made the flames so hot that the people who threw them in the flames caught fire. And so as our nation goes through the flames, we need to remember that God is with us. And honestly, it's a consecration for the nation. Man. But we have to go through it. I'll ask that the Lord be merciful on us, and I think we all should ask that the Lord be merciful on it, but there's a consecration this nation needs to go through. And that consecration is going to rebirth and birth this nation to where these woke idealisms and these other gods that were invited in by our federal government, by Joe Biden, don't hold a grip on this nation. Now, let's get to the news. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, just as we predicted, violence has broken out all over the United States and North Carolina. Some gunmen pulled up on a boat and started taking shots into a restaurant. A Mormon church just got ran through with a vehicle. People shot up and set on fire. Another church, in a factory, people were just murdered. And I'm going to tell you this. You're going to hear it here first. This is the problem when wokeism merges with Islamism. You think that when you think of a terrorist, you think of an Islamic terrorist as in looking like the traditional Allah Akbar dude. The problem is they let Islamicists in from all over the world. And that's what makes Islam so dangerous. Because Brennan, who used to be the CIA director, is a Muslim. Brennan is a Muslim, on record. Obama was a Muslim, on record. And the thing about Islam, unlike Christianity, Islam transcends, they've had the ability to transcend skin tone. Completely transcend skin tone. But it's because they have this vicious, let's murder all our adversaries attitude. Anyway, Eric Adams drops out of New York mayor's race. This is a very significant event, and I'll be covering some significant events in a rapid succession today, because I think we need to see these things. You may say to yourself, why did Eric Adams drop out? Eric Adams dropped out because we cannot have a Muslim socialist take over New York City. And somebody cut a deal with Eric Adams. Now, I'm not sure if it was the Democrats who made a deal with him to get him in there, but I'm suspecting that Eric got what he wanted in the negotiation and stepped down because he held a lot of power. There's long been speculation about a possibility of Eric Adams being offered a position in President Donald Trump's administration in exchange for dropping out of the race. Adams announced the news in a video posted on X.
Nearly 4 years ago, Gracie Mansion became my home. Who would have thought that a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, growing up with learning disabilities could one day become the mayor of the greatest city in the world? I cannot thank my mother enough for instilling in me the values she lived by. I hope every parent can use my life as an example for their child during challenging moments. Only in America can a story like this be told. When I was elected to serve as your mayor, I said these words: this campaign was never about me. It was about the people of this city, from every neighborhood and background, who had been left behind and believed they would never catch up. This campaign was for the underserved, the marginalized, the abandoned, and betrayed by government. Since then, it has been my honor to be your mayor, and I'm proud to say that we took that victory 4 years ago and turned it into action, making this city better for those who have been failed by government. I felt immense pride serving you every day, and look at what we accomplished together. We built more housing in one term than any administration before us, and removed barriers to build even more. We drove crime down.
We get it, Eric. You're dropping out of the race. You want to brag about what you did. But Eric, you brought illegal aliens into the city of New York, and you laid the foundation for Mondami to come. And that's the honest to God truth about what Eric Adams did. And it wasn't until Greg Abbott decided that he was going to start shipping illegal aliens to northern cities so they would pay the price and the penalty for it, that Eric Adams said, oh, hell no, we got to get it together. And I understand there's blackmail that goes on in politics. But you need to know that Eric has dropped out and what it means for the race in New York City. It means Cuomo should get a bump in the polls against Mondami. It doesn't necessarily mean that Mondami will not win, but it does mean that Eric Adams won't be responsible for Mondami winning. And those are two different things. To be responsible for a socialist winning because you were being selfish is a whole nother story. And he will go down with everything that he accomplished in history will be overshadowed by the fact that him staying in the race allowed a Muslim socialist to take over New York City. Now, let's get into the Christian persecution that's being unleashed. And I want you to understand that that's what this is. What comes now is a persecution. And you need to understand what's on the other side of persecutions are massive deliverances and victories. There's revivals on the other sides of persecution. So Charlie Kirk murdered. And there's speculation on who killed him, how they killed him. Was it this person? Yes, that's the minutia. That's the weeds. You can get caught up in the weeds all you want. When you look at it from a high level, you saw the revival that came out of it, right? When you really look at the conspiracy and dig into it, you're trying to figure out what Satan actually did instead of what God did. That's the craziest thing about this all to me. And you can explain this to people over and over and over and over and over again. When you really go down the rabbit hole conspiracy theories, you are chasing Satan. You're chasing the footsteps of Satan. You're analyzing pretty much the fingerprints of Satan. You start to get to know Satan. You never thought about it that way. I know you didn't. Most people never really think about it that way. Now, you can analyze conspiracy from your flesh, or you can analyze conspiracy from the spirit realm with the help of God. The problem is, when you start analyzing with the help of God, he's going to tell you, does that really matter? For example, as far as the kingdom is concerned, the kingdom of God is concerned, does it matter how Charlie Kirk was murdered? Does it matter whether it was the guy with the rifle? Does it matter if it was the lapel mic shooting through the neck? Does it matter if it's somebody shooting from the other side? Does it matter from the kingdom perspective? Charlie's in heaven and alive, number one. Number two, Charlie's blood sacrifice or blood death, which was a sacrifice blood, basically. Witches started doing curses and everything else. But the sacrifice of Charlie and the spilling of his blood, that's a better way to put it. The spilling of his blood led to one of the largest revivals ever. And that's what it boils down to. Let's go to this next thing. Michigan shooting. I think these is at a Mormon church. I'm pretty sure this is a Mormon church. I believe that's what they were saying in the news.
I'm at the scene of a giant fire happening at a church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. I talked to someone who just got here from South America. It's his first week in the U.S., went to church church with his mom. His mom is still in the building and he got out. From what I'm hearing on the ground, a man drove his vehicle into the church and then started shooting and even shot a little girl in the back, and she is at the hospital right now. The shooter has been neutralized, but that's all I know at the moment. Everyone within a 30-minute radius has responded to the scene. I'm at the scene of a giant fire happening.
We have to understand that there are going to be more and more and more of these attacks. Infowars.com. Let's head there. Gunman opens fire on North Carolina restaurant. That looks like the emergency crews. And of course, Chris Cascading Doug says, it's the guns. The Second Amendment has limits, but the politicians are afraid to impose these limits. Of course, y'all gonna blame the guns. Not the sheer lunatic that's shooting the gun. While you let people run around mentally ill, claiming to be girls. Boys claiming to be girls and girls claiming to be boys. Of course it's the gun.
Very. So, are you able to say if there was 3 fatalities for sure?
So far, that's what I understand. I think 4 others shot have been transported to the hospital.
You know, good old Dozier's stop.
Wow. So you go out to dinner with your wife on the bay and someone pulls up and starts shooting people. From a boat. But we said this was coming. I mean, there's no doubt that this is coming. Now, I'm going to say this again. I do not like the role that Israel plays in sticking its nose in everything. And we're going to have to free ourselves from this nation. Zelensky confirms Israel sent Patriot missile battery to Ukraine with more on the way. So now remember, Russia is a Christian nation. So here we go. Everybody want to talk about Jews and Christians. Here we go. Now you getting in the middle of a war. You got your own battle to fight, but you won't send missiles, batteries to Zelensky. But not even gonna go any further down that road. I went down that road on another video. Point I'm making is everybody keeps talking about Israel is an ally. And maybe the nation itself and the people can be an ally, but this leadership in that nation is not our ally. I'm sorry. Everything I see them doing is dragging us deeper into a hole where it's like you want us to go to war. And you know, as I click through social media, finding these clips, I run into people who call all of this theater. And I get it. You know, I get it. I get the conspiracy. It's deep state theater. I get it. Because these people are experts at following Satan. But you're not smart as Satan. He's an ancient being. An ancient entity. Who lying is his native language. It truly bothers me. Hold on, let me go back to that. I was trying to find that video, and maybe it was only meant for me to see because I literally just clicked off of it and then it disappeared. But nonetheless, I'll make this point to you, and I want you to understand. When you see people running around and they're like, oh, it's all theater. You know, Charlie Kirk's wife had the G on her hand and it stands for Mason. And You know, she was blowing her nose and she was giving the middle finger. God's handprints are on every event, and Satan's fingerprints are on every event. You choose which fingerprints you want to follow. And it, just so be clear with you, because most people never get this. If you choose that all you're doing is, when you look at information, is to follow the fingerprints of Satan, then your ass is worshiping Satan. You're giving him attention and worship. That's why the conspiracy theory realm, the cryptid, the ghosts, the monsters, the all that stuff is so dangerous, because Satan is a master deceiver. He don't have no problem with good. He don't even have a problem with truth. He got a problem with God. So he'll give you a version of the truth or some truth to mislead you and have you worshiping him. And then you'll be later on, you'll be standing in front of the white throne judgment or one of the judgments at the throne. Like, well, let me looking at the books. They open the books. Well, it looks like you're a Satanist. What do you mean, my Lord? I've never worshiped Satan. I've never done anything to do. I don't know Satan. Satan like, no, he mine. Yeah, he worshiped me. And then it all be disclosed to you that because you spent the majority of your time jumping down rabbit holes with no leadership from the Holy Spirit, just, yeah, I know you heard about the Charlie Kirk murder. Yeah, you know, the Q board said, you know, this information was necessary. Yeah, you know, Charlie Kirk's still alive, right? Yeah, did you see it? Did you see it? Just breadcrumbs led by Satan to lead you back to his dungeon where he's going to chain you up and whip the hell out of you. That's all it is to it. But it takes a little bit of discernment to see that.
We're going to talk about here today, as I said, was happening at 10:25 a.m. at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is located at 4285 McCandless Road. During this incident, what we know right now is that a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, he's a male, he drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church. 10 gunshot victims have been transported to local hospitals at this time, including one who has been deceased. Officers who were trained immediately responded to the area. One was a DNR officer, and then one was a Grand Blanc Township officer, where they met the suspect and they engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect, and that suspect is no longer with us. As I said, it is a 40-year-old male from Buuren. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that was deliberately set by the suspect. We do believe that we will find additional victims once we have that scene secure.
You know, there's some things that gotta happen. I don't want them to happen, but they gotta happen. I've been saying this over and over and over again. To get people's attention, to wake people up, to bring people out of their slumber. I hate to see it, but it's coming down the pipeline. Keep your head on a swivel. Be paying attention. If you got that thing, keep that thing on your hip. Make sure you got full magazines and the extra magazine. And, you know, survive. You heard me? You're going to have to survive. And I don't mean that in a depressing way. I'm just saying, if you pop off, then you make sure you survive. If it's their life or your life, someone else's life that has the intention of taking your life, then you take their life. Don't just take the life and keep it moving. You heard me? Deuces.